Former MLB executive David Samson of the Miami Marlins made some pretty interesting comments and, quite frankly, hates Jazz Chisholm Jr. And we're going to get into all of the comments that he said on a recent podcast episode that he was included in. We're going to get into all of it because it is really insane, and it's pretty much clear that Jazz Chisholm is not liked in certain places. So we're going to break all of these comments down and what it may mean for Chisholm and his future in New York on another episode of Yankees Digest. But first, welcome in. This is your place for all things New York Yankees, the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between. I am your host, Gabby Gordon, and real quick, if you're among the 89.7% not currently subscribed, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button right now so that you never miss a beat. And if you're among the 10.3%, we truly, truly appreciate you here. And even if you're lurking around a little bit, just watching the videos, but not sure if you should subscribe yet, we appreciate you tuning in as well. But that's right, some crazy, crazy comments going down, circulating about the new acquisition for the Yankees in Jazz Chisholm Jr. But before we get into any of these actual comments, I just want to show y'all how Jazz is doing in a New York Yankees uniform. Now, these are his overall stats for the season, so this does not just show what he has done for the New York Yankees, but as you can see, his picture's been updated in pinstripes, and I gotta be real with you, I think he looks great in pinstripes thus far. He's young, 26, 5'11", so looking just at the line of stats that you see here, look, 17 homers, it's one of the highest on the Yankees roster thus far. RBIs, he got 58, he's on base. He works the count somewhat of the time. His base on ball is not 100% at what you would love for it to be, but at the very least, you know, he's got that athletic power and he's making things happen, and he's been doing great in the Yankees uniform, and you know, he's been making history, and he has made history, and he has quickly shown himself to Yankees fans, and kind of the relationship has gone quite well thus far. And as I mentioned, he's made history, hitting 4 homers in his first 3 games as a Yankee, and he's become the first Bronx Bomber to ever do so in franchise history. I also want to take a look at just his New York Yankee career stats. Now, this is a whole list of his career batting averages and stats and everything, and obviously from 2020 on to 2024, right before the deadline, is all within Miami. But if you take a look at the Yankees, and you can see he's pretty much tearing the cover off the baseball thus far, and I know he's only had 4 games under his belt, and as you can see, only 19 ABs, so those stats get padded a little bit when you're having a really good start, but I don't see why he would slow down anytime soon. I think, if anything, the opposite kind of happens to guys when they transfer into New York. And New York fans and having to play against New York fans is an animal. It's not easy. It's not for everybody. And Jazz has been taking it pretty simple, and he's batting .368 right now with 7 hits, 6 runs, 4 homers, and 8 RBIs. He's making things happen. But nonetheless, he's just getting on base and doing things, and he's got that speed aspect that the Yankees haven't seen in quite some time. So we're going to look at these comments right now, and they're pretty interesting based on what he has done thus far as a New York Yankee. So let's just take a look at the initial comment here from David Samson. Once again, he is the ex-Marlins executive, so he is no longer active with the Miami Marlins, but he's known plenty about Jazz. And he said, quote, "He's gotten off to a good start, and that's going to maybe give him the false sense that he's the center of some amount of attention. But wait till he goes 1 for 13 in New York. In Miami, it gets ignored with 1 camera. In New York, you're on the back page of the Post, so be careful what you wish for." So this, pretty non-harmful comment, I guess, but it says a lot without saying a lot. It's implying that Jazz, number 1, thinks he's the center of attention, but number 2, that he's going to suck. And so I don't really know what went on behind the scenes with David Samson and Jazz Chisholm, but it certainly wasn't pretty based on an ex-Marlins executive, someone who's pretty high up within the front office of the Miami Marlins, or who was pretty high up, to be saying all this. And then he doesn't stop here. He goes on to say, Brian Cashman then kind of was asked about this, and when you're looking at comments from a Marlins executive, it kind of raises red flags as a GM. And there has obviously been, and we'll get into that quote in a second, but there has obviously been a lot of concerns about Chisholm's character and the fact that he's quite flashy, and the fact that some of that is not always admirable, not always an admirable thing. and that sometimes it takes over, kind of masks his potential. But when you're on a roster with a guy like Aaron Judge and Juan Soto and the rest of the guys, I feel like you know your place. And so, these initial comments from Mr. Samson are very bold and very strong. And to say he's going to go 1 for 13 in New York and then, be careful what you wish for, it's not just a shot to Chisholm, but it's also kind of a shot to the front office of the New York Yankees. The exact comment of be careful what you wish for, it's like, yeah, he's off to a good start, but just wait until you see what you really got into. So I really didn't like that at all, and maybe that's a little bit of bias coming from a Yankee fan standpoint, but, Cashman said it pretty well. He said, quote, "We did a lot of research on him, and we're excited to have him, and he's obviously very athletic, and he plays the game with joy. Ultimately, after our deep dive, we felt like he'd fit in really well and would be a really perfect piece to allow our manager, Aaron Boone, to deploy him." So obviously Cashman's not going to say anything too deep, and Cashman's pretty cut and dry, to the point, very, very simple, and it seems like they did their fair share of research on a guy who's had some people not like him in the past. And Jazz had an input on this statement too, and he was asked, do you have any concerns about your character potentially thinking that it could be flawed, that others could see you as having a character flaw in your game? And he said, quote, "No, for me, I just wanted to come here, help the team win, be myself, and don't change anything. I'm just going to go about all the things the way I always have. All the news and all the other stuff came from guys that didn't even like me." Chisholm said it pretty clear. Now, obviously, we know Chisholm. We know that he's got a lot of energy, and we know that he's got the swagger. You can see it with the fits he shows up to games in, his green belt and his sliding mitt and all that, and you can just see he enjoys the game of baseball, but he likes to show off quite a bit. And there's nothing wrong with that, because you have guys like Verdugo who do very similar things with the fashion statement and the chain. Soto likes to show up in nice fashion as well, and kind of, he's got that confidence, so I don't think there's a problem necessarily with that. Now, could Chisholm kind of be holding back right now just to kind of make that good impression with the fans, with the organization, with his teammates? Again, he's only been in four starts as a Yankee thus far, and if we see in a month from now, whatever that looks like, could Chisholm be a very different player? It's very possible, and I'm not going to discount that, and there could be whatever these other people are saying, character flaw. Maybe we are going to see that come to life. But when you got a guy in that was the executive of Jazz Chisholm and the entire Marlins team, and was with Chisholm very closely in many aspects, and you got him coming out saying statements like this, it's like, as a Yankee fan, you wonder, right? Like, you wonder, when are we going to see this big character flaw that everybody's raving about? Or are these people that just truly don't like the talent that Chisholm has, and now that his talent is being put to good use in New York and going for a World Series push, or at least a very deep playoff push, it's like, this could change a guy like Jazz and his entire outlook and his entire reputation. And I like the spark he adds to this roster already, and you can obviously see what the results have looked like as the guys have kind of rallied together and put some solid wins together in the last week or so, the last few games since he's been on this team. So, interesting comments from David Samson. I guess take it with a grain of salt, and we'll see if any more comments come out from other sources regarding Chisholm. We'll see if these comments come to fruition and if he really will go 1 for 13. And, we'll have to be careful what we wish for, right? According to Mr. Samson, former executive of the Miami Marlins. But that's going to wrap up this episode of Yankees Digest. As always, hit that subscribe button so that you never miss a beat. We're on the road to 2,000 subscribers, and there's a very big possibility that you will see my face again tonight on live on YouTube as we do a nice watch-along live stream for tonight's game at home against the Blue Jays. So with all that being said, this is going to wrap up this episode of Yankees Digest. If you like it, hit that subscribe button so that you never miss a beat and so that you always see my face on your screen. This has been Yankees Digest. I've been your host, Gabby Gordon, and I will catch you in the next one.